Okay, what I'm working on is I'm making these little clips that are going to hold the bolt for my exhaust. The top side of the bolt is the hardest to hold with the wrench. So I've noticed they put these little clips on some vehicles, and some have them and some don't. So I just am making something to hold the bolt here. And all I'm using is this angle piece of aluminum that you can get from pretty much any hardware place. It's a little bit wider, it's more of an L piece, but it's not very big. I got this and picked up some more bolts that were the same length, and this just goes in here and it'll set when you go to loosen or tighten. It'll hit against that once it's tightened down, and that will prevent it from spinning, so I can take this loose without having to hold the top of this bolt on the exhaust, which is the most difficult. And like I said, all I've done, it's just, I've not used any special tools. I've just used the bolt itself. You got that point, and I've just set it flat against that and put a mark right there where that point is on that to be the center. And then I've just used a punch on both of these and then just drilled them out once I had them punched. And I'm drilling them and everything prior to cutting them. They're going to be about 1.5 inches, and that's all I need there. So now I'm just going to cut them off one at a time that I've got the hole drilled in there, and then I'll show you how I'm going to put them on the exhaust. Okay, and when drilling these holes, this is a 5/64 bolt. I want to use the close as drill size as this diameter as I can, so it's not moving around. Otherwise it's not going to work right. If the hole's got too much slack, then it's going to wind up spinning and not hitting against this piece. So I mean, it's an exact fit almost, where it slides in really snug. Okay, so after cutting those off with a hacksaw, this is what we got. It's just, so it's nothing fancy or anything, but it serves a purpose of keeping this from spinning. So I'm going to put that on there, and it's not going to be putting a crazy amount of force on these anyway. That's why aluminum is the easiest thing to work with. So it's just to keep it from spinning. So once you get it tight anyways, there's going to be more downward force, and this is not even really going to be putting a lot of strain against this. But breaking it loose, once you get it broke loose, you can get that nut completely off there without having to hold this up here. And same thing, tighten it down, it'll flip over here and hit against the side of that pipe. That way you're not having to get a wrench up here and hold that. Now, if something did happen and it decided to spin, I can still get a wrench on this, worst case. But this is keeping me from having to get a socket and a wrench up here on the top, which is the most difficult to get to on the exhaust manifold. So this is just something that I put together here to make things easier. Now all I'll have to do when I set this on the exhaust manifold is come down, get my two nuts on here, and I'll be able to tighten those up and without having to worry about holding that up there. So once I get it set up on my engine, I'll show you what this looks like. Okay, now here is my setup that's going to be on my truck. I can't really show you from in there, but this is the exact way that it's going to be set up in there. And you can see what we made those and how they hit against that. And so with it like that, it's easier to get underneath the truck to these from the bottom. The hard part is getting up here to hold this. Like I said, it's nothing fancy. It's just something to make it a little bit easier to remove this, because one of the things about this truck, removing this turbo, it's way easier to loosen these here and get the slack to be able to get this thing in and out and to get it mated up properly. So I was taking those loose a lot, so this makes it way easier. Now on this side there is a funky little beveled piece here, so all I did was just took a spacer. It's just a steel spacer that I had laying around. I have lots of little bolts and spacers and stuff I just keep for whatever reason. So if you didn't have those, you could, put some washers in here or something. It'd work just fine. But like I said, it doesn't take a whole lot of force, and just enough to keep that from spinning, because that bolt hits against that piece of angle and then that hits against the pipe, so it works out so you don't have to get, once you slip them on there, you don't have to get up there to worry about holding that, and you can snug it down plenty good. So I wanted to put it on here just to make sure everything was going to work out the way that I wanted it to, and also show y'all how I've got this. Like I said, so nothing fancy, but it's could be a helpful tip, because that's the most difficult part of getting this loose from the exhaust manifold. So like I said, just drilled a couple little angle pieces, and they set up against that, and it's working out really nice. And now I just had to get some longer bolts on this side, because I had to use the spacers. So I got the longest ones that they had. Those are, I believe, 700 thousandths, and these are like or 600, it said on the package. So I just had to get them a little bit longer on that side because of the bevel, to get it up here where it's clearing that and would work out a little better. So like I said, if you having the same problem, with your taking yours loose from the exhaust manifold, this may be helpful, because like I said, you can get underneath. It's really no problem to get underneath, but it's getting to this up here that's the major issue, being able to get to that and hold that, because this one had a let's see, I've got the original bolt looks like this, and it's just got a 10mm head on it, and it's got the 13 on the bottom, and it just sat on there like that. And so of course that just spun, so you had to get something and figure out how to get up there to hold that while you're tightening that, and it's really not too easy. So anything you can do to make things a little bit easier on yourself, is the way to go. So, and this is like nothing new. They do this with certain nuts and bolts, and I've had trucks that had little flimsy clips. Now the problem with those is they usually rust and break, so then they're just sitting there spinning and you're having a heck of a time getting it off of there like that. So, but so like I said, just something to hold it so you can get to the bottom part and turn it and break it loose and tighten it and everything. Just makes it a little bit easier. So hopefully, like I said, that's been helpful, and it gives you a good visual of this. And I'm going to see how it works. I don't see there being any problems with it, but we'll find out. Because it's definitely going to make it easier for me to hop under here and loosen these up anytime I need to get the turbo off, because this here is just so tight. And another thing about it, you don't want to be putting a lot of force on your flex joints, because you can crack these, and once you crack them, then they start leaking and making noise, and you have other problems to deal with. So you have to be careful and not get too rough with these flex joints. So I just like to take these both loose, just crack them loose where you got some wiggle room, and then you don't have to worry about messing those up, and it makes it so much easier getting that turbo out too. It just comes out of there just really easy once this pipe is loose. I said, the big one over here is no problem. So anyways, just wanted to do a little video on what I come up with on that, and thank y'all for watching.